as a business or entrepreneur, if we're entrepreneurs, we're a business owner. It's important to track your progress and growth by measuring certain metrics. But what are the right metrics to track? And how can you determine which ones are most important for your business? This is something that I was asking myself the end of last year. And it's something that I realized I was tracking. Okay, I was tracking metrics, but I wasn't utilizing those metrics. And so I want to kind of talk about tracking which metrics we should be tracking, and it could be different for every single one of us. So I really want you to think about which ones are best for you, and then how to utilize those metrics to help you grow your business and improve what's working and what's not working. I guess it's not improving. That would be stopping what's not working. So first question you're probably having is, what are the best metrics to track for business success? So first off, you have to think of your objectives. And we talked about this last week in episode 21 about your goals or your objectives for the year. So you have to decide, what are your objectives? What are the important things that you really want in your business? And maybe it's you want lots of traffic to a certain spot. Maybe you want to grow your audience. Maybe you want to have more money. Whatever it is, that's what you need to decide first, is what is most important to you. And normally when you pick that thing, other things come into play to make that work. And so you need to decide where you need to be tracking metrics. So for me, for example, in my DIY site, the things that are most important to me are that I want people to go to my website, and I want them to also watch my YouTube video. So those are very important to me. But the way that I get people to those places is through SEO. So that's Google search, Pinterest, and then social media channels. And so I need to track all those metrics to see how they're performing. And maybe if one's not performing, how can I tweak it to give me the results I need to reach these goals of getting more people to these projects? So I'm going to walk you through what I'm doing, or what I'm changing, what I was doing and what I'm changing. Let's talk that because that's going to be where it's at. So I forgot to pull up what I was doing. So let me hurry and pull that up. So something that I was doing before is I have a Google spreadsheet that has all my income statement on it. So it's where I track my income, my expenses, my profit for the year. So on there, it has this pretty spreadsheet view of graphs of where everything's kind of at and what I need to do to fix stuff. But at the very back of that, I have some data tracker, and I was tracking lots of different things, but it didn't portray it in a way that made me see that it was either dropping or increasing, or what even made that happen. So that is what we need to determine, is what is changing the numbers. So what I am doing now and what I'm changing for this year is that I'm going to be doing a quarterly audit for certain platforms. And I'm going to do monthly stat tracker, which I was already doing, but this monthly stat tracker is going to be more in depth on what I'm tracking. So for example, what I'm doing is I have a metrics at a glance option, and that is not the right one. Let me hurry and get to the right one, because that's not it. So it has metrics at a glance, and with these, it tells me if things are growing or not based on the month towards the previous month. That way I can see quickly if things are growing or not growing. But with it is, what am I tracking? So things that I want to track are, for my website, for example, is how many articles I published for the month, and also because this is an old site for my DIY, is how many articles I've updated. It's very important because a lot of my old posts don't have updated SEO on them. Some of them, I didn't even think of that when I was doing it. So it's important for me to update posts. And so I need to track that if I've updated things. And then I have the page views, the sessions, the number of new users. And this is a new metric, and it's on, so Google's changing their Google Analytics type. And so this is the new one. It's not the universal analytics. It's the new, it's like G something 4. So this one has an engagement rate, and it shows it it's easy to find. The one that's hard to find now, and I actually removed it because it's very similar to each other, is the bounce rate. So the engagement rate is actually how many people are seeing your content and actually engaging with it. So it's a very important rating. And then there's an average engagement time. So how long are people actually staying on your website? And then the percentage of organic search and social reach as well are things that I'm tracking. But the one that I really want to talk about, because with that, is my numbers dropped more than I thought they dropped last year when I was doing my end of year, like look at everything. And it's because I wasn't actively looking at things like I should be, if this makes sense to people. So I was tracking metrics, but I wasn't utilizing the metrics. So that is the key. We can track metrics, but does it mean anything to us? And so that's what I'm trying to change, is utilizing those metrics. And something that I didn't really notice was my drop in Pinterest traffic. It didn't really hit me because I was slowly, gradually seeing it on my tracker rather than by this new one that I'm going to be using. It's going to actually show me more in depth how much it's dropping. So that's what I'm changing, is I'm doing more of that and checking what's actually increasing and dropping. And then with it, I have this Pinterest audit that I'm going to be doing. And actually, I'm not doing the Pinterest audit. I'm going to be honest with you. I have a content manager, which she schedules. I create all of my content, and then she schedules it for me. But she does do the Pinterest side of it. And so she is going to be doing this Pinterest audit for me. And with that, she is going to do all these metrics for me. But then she is going to look at my top performing boards and make sure, that they're, because your board should be optimized every quarter. So she's going to make sure that they're optimized. She's going to make sure my profile is optimized. And with that, oh my gosh, it's kind of embarrassing, but I didn't have keywords in my name on Pinterest. I mean, I have it on Instagram, but I didn't have it on Pinterest. I don't even know. It's a whole nother thing. I don't know. I don't know why, but yes. So I wasn't tracking and updating things properly. And so I want to track that, because if I track it, I'm going to see trends. This is like the cool thing, because I kind of went back and tracked the last 6 months for last year, because you can only track 6 months in Pinterest before you can't track it anymore. And so I went back the last 6 months and I tracked what was happening, and I see the trends of kind of when people are searching for certain things based on the boards, which tells me what projects I should be posting. Because yes, you kind of see that in Google Analytics, but a board makes it it's pretty crazy, because for example, where's my boards? I'm going to tell you. So for example, I have one that's a home project ideas, which is always kind of on the top, woodworking, and that kind of sways here and there. Though there's outside projects, which you can probably guess when that is really, really hot and when it drops off the map, right? But it surprised me is when other things come into play. Like bathrooms were pretty high, like all the time. And I was really shocked about that. Even organizing home, like it starts trending up in July and hitting more of a peak it hits its peak in September and then drops back in October. So like stuff like that I didn't really notice was happening because I wasn't really tracking it. So it's something now that I'm going to be tracking, and everybody's audience is going to be slightly different. So that's why I recommend tracking these boards. And I'm only tracking 6. I'm not tracking all of them, only 6. And that is something else too that I have to figure out and change is my boards too are all over the place. I need to condense them. I need to put new descriptions in them, lots of that kind of stuff. So that's part of the audit part. But the thing that I really wanted to look at was what are my top performing pins each month? And I'm only doing 3 because there's things with 3s. If you know me, we like to do 3 tasks a day, da 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 da. So 3 pins. And it's pretty funny. These are pretty consistent. It's kind of shocking how consistent they are. And that would make sense of why certain boards are higher because it is saying stuff. But looking at these pins, it tells me what type of pin it is. So it's format. So if it's a video pin, standard pin, idea pin, if there's a text overlay, if it's a before and after picture. And then below that, my VA is going to be typing up what's working. So what's working between all 3 of these pins, what could be improved. And then she's going to pick 1 to 3 action items for the next quarter or for the next month that are going to be implemented. And I'm going to really suggest that she only picks 1 because, and actually I'm going to change that. I'm going to change it so it's only 1 action item, because if you do more than 1, you're not really going to see if it improved. So we're going to pick 1 action item that we're going to change each month, or maybe it's going to be a couple months that we're still trying to improve that action item. That way we can tell. So that is something that I'm really going to hone in on, is doing the numbers, but then diving into the top 3, and maybe even I need to pick like the bottom 3 might even be a good idea of things, because that will tell you don't do this because it's obviously not working. And I think I might do that actually. I'm really liking that idea, but I'm going to do that for Instagram as well, because I'm trying to pull people in from Instagram. And so I'm going to do something similar like that too, and see how that goes. And I'm going to test different things as well, but I'm going to note it so that way I know if it's actually working or not, so that I can tell, is this working or what needs to be improved? And then another thing that came to my attention that I wasn't really utilizing was that in my tracker, I was tracking on YouTube the average view duration. And we talked about this too in the blog as well. And how the thing that I want to do is how can I increase that view? I want to tweak and test things. So that's what I'm going to be doing in YouTube, is tweaking things. Maybe it's I need a better hook in the beginning. Maybe I need to do more B-roll here and there. What is it that I need to do and test to see what is happening and what's improving? So that's why I have to collect the metrics so that I can see if if what I'm doing is actually working or not. Before I was just tracking stuff, but not even doing anything with it. I wasn't testing anything. I was just going with it and being like, oh, it's kind of similar. We'll just keep going, rather than, ooh, well, what if I tried this? And noting that I'm trying it and then seeing what happens. So that is something that I want to encourage you to do as well, is, yeah, we're tracking the metrics, but are we utilizing them? Are we monitoring them for our business performance? And that's something that I think lots of people probably could benefit from, and something that you can also use a tool. So all of these platforms do have their own analytics, and I would love for it all to be in one place, but I'm kind of cheap and I don't want to pay for services that bring things all together. And so I don't really have a tool that brings them all together without paying, but there is a tool that you can at least do Google Analytics and YouTube through, and slightly some of Pinterest based off Google Analytics. And that tool it was called Data Studios, but now that it looks like they changed the name, it's called Looker Studios. It's a Google product. And what you can do there is you can create this beautiful data spreadsheet, I guess I don't even know if you call it a spreadsheet because it just looks super pretty and you put graphs in it and all these other things in it. But you can actually see the visual on what's happening each month or 3 months. What's the 3-month period? And I really, really would be beneficial, though, if you could pull that all in from all these different platforms. But again, you'd have to pay for another service that would bring it all into that. I think it's called like Supermetrics is one that does it. But again, I'm not willing to pay that. So I'll just do it manually until then. But yeah, so that is the tools that I'm using. Is I'm just using a Google spreadsheet that I've created that will be tracking everything. And I put graphs in that too, so it looks pretty. Or you can use the Data Studio. But here's something I did not tell you with that. The Data Studio, you can actually link it to your Google spreadsheet. So you can track all the metrics inside of the Google spreadsheet and pull it all. So it all pulls lovely and pretty into that Data Studio. I keep calling it Data Studio. It's Looker Studio now. So that's something that you can do there. But I just want to encourage you. This whole point of this episode is to encourage you to track metrics, but then do something with the metrics and make sure that you're tracking the metrics that will help you reach your objectives or goals. So whatever they may be, make sure that you're tracking them and then tweak things and document it on your metrics. So that way you can see if things are improving or not. So that's what I encourage you to do. And with that, I'll see you next time.